Will you teach my brother how to be a man for $7? Asked the 8-year-old girl as she stood in the doorway of the Devil's Disciples clubhouse, holding a mason jar filled with coins and crumpled bills. The poker game stopped mid-deal. 8 bikers turned to stare at the small figure, silhouetted against the afternoon sun, her worn sneakers barely crossing the threshold of a place that even grown men approached with caution. This wasn't a neighborhood for children, let alone little girls walking alone. The Devil's Disciples Motorcycle Club had a reputation that stretched across 3 counties. Ex-military, former inmates, men who'd seen the darkest corners of humanity and came back changed. Their clubhouse sat at the edge of an industrial zone, surrounded by chain-link fence and security cameras. Reaper, the club president, was the first to move. He set down his cards slowly, his weathered hands marked with scars and faded tattoos. At 52, he'd done 2 tours in Vietnam, 15 years in San Quentin, and another 20 trying to make something decent out of the wreckage of his life. His presence alone made most people nervous. "How'd you get past the gate, kid?" Reaper's voice was gravelly from decades of cigarettes and shouting orders. "I climbed it," the girl said matter-of-factly. "The fence isn't that high if you're small." A few of the bikers exchanged glances. The fence was 8 feet tall with barbed wire. This kid had determination. "What's your name?" Reaper asked, walking toward her. Sophie Martinez." She held up the mason jar. "I've been saving for 3 months. I've 743. Is that enough?" "Enough for what exactly?" Sophie's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the jar. "To teach my brother how to be a man. He's 14. Our dad died 2 years ago in Afghanistan. Mom works 3 jobs just to keep us fed. And there's this group of older boys. They keep telling Miguel he's nothing without a father, that he'll never be a man, that he's weak." She took a breath, words spilling faster now. "Miguel quit the soccer team. He stopped doing homework. He just sits in his room all day. And yesterday, I heard him crying. He never cries. He said he doesn't know how to be strong anymore, that nobody's there to show him." The clubhouse had gone completely silent. These were men who understood loss, absence, the hole that fathers leave behind. Brick, the sergeant-at-arms, stood up from his chair. He was 6'4", built like his nickname suggested, with arms covered in military ink. "Where's your brother now?" "At home. He doesn't know I'm here. He'd be mad if he knew." "And your mother?" "At work. She won't be home until midnight. She cleans offices downtown." Ghost, the club's treasurer and former Army Ranger, moved to the window. His eyes scanned the street outside. "You walk here alone?" Sophie nodded. "It's 2 miles. I've walked farther." "Through this neighborhood?" Ghost's voice was sharp. "Kid, you could have been hurt." "I know," Sophie said quietly. "But Miguel's hurting worse, and I don't know what else to do." Reaper knelt down, bringing himself to eye level with Sophie. His face was a roadmap of violence, a broken nose never set right, scars from knife fights, eyes that had seen too much death. But when he spoke, his voice was gentle. "Sophie, you know what we are, right? What people say about us?" "You're bikers. You're supposed to be dangerous." She met his gaze without flinching. "But Mrs. Chen at the corner store said you helped her when those men tried to rob her last year. And I saw you guys give money to the fire department for their toy drive. So I think maybe you're dangerous to bad people, but not to people who need help." Reaper felt something twist in his chest. This kid had more courage than most adults he'd known. "Tell me about your brother," he said. Sophie's eyes lit up slightly. "Miguel used to be amazing. He played soccer, was the best on his team. He helped Mom with everything, made me breakfast before school, helped with my homework. After Dad died, he tried so hard to be the man of the house." Her voice cracked. "But he's just a kid too, you know. He shouldn't have to be the dad. And these older boys, they're 17, 18. They hang around our building. They tell Miguel he's trash, that without a father, he's going to end up in prison or dead. They keep trying to get him to join their gang." "Names," Brick said, his voice hard. "I need names." "Why?" Sophie asked. "Because," Reaper said carefully, "we need to understand the whole situation." Sophie rattled off 3 names. Reaper and Brick exchanged knowing looks. They knew exactly who she was talking about, the East Side Lobos, a street gang that had been recruiting in the neighborhood for months. "Has Miguel done anything with them yet?" Ghost asked. "No, but they keep pushing. They say if he doesn't join by his 15th birthday, they'll make him join. That's in 3 weeks." The bikers stood in a loose circle now, their body language shifting from casual to tactical. These were men who'd fought in jungles, deserts, and prison yards. They recognized a threat assessment when they heard one. "Sophie," Reaper said, "I need to ask you something important. Why did you come to us specifically? There are other places, churches, community centers, police." Sophie's expression hardened with a wisdom beyond her years. "The churches gave us thoughts and prayers. The community center is underfunded and overcrowded. And the police?" She shook her head. "They drive through our neighborhood like we're all criminals. Miguel's scared of them. He needs someone who understands what it's like to fight, to be tough, but chose to be good anyway." Reaper looked at his brothers. Every one of them had made that choice at some point, to use their strength to protect instead of destroy. "Keep your money," Reaper said, gently pushing the mason jar back toward Sophie. "But we don't charge for this. Never have, never will." He stood up. "But we need to meet Miguel. Can't teach someone who doesn't want to be taught." "He wants help," Sophie said quickly. "He just doesn't know how to ask for it. Boys are weird like that." Despite the tension, several bikers smiled. "All right," Reaper said. "Brick Ghost, you're with me. We're going to meet this kid. The rest of you, I want everything you can find on the East Side Lobos, leadership, territory, operations. If they're recruiting 14-year-olds, they're getting desperate or bold. Either way, it's a problem." Sophie led 3 bikers through her neighborhood on foot. They'd left their bikes at the clubhouse, too intimidating, too loud. But even without their motorcycles, they drew attention. People on stoops stopped talking as they passed. Drug dealers on corners suddenly found somewhere else to be. "That's them," Sophie whispered, nodding toward a group of young men leaning against a chain-link fence near a basketball court. Reaper recognized the posture, the territorial stance. He'd seen it in prison, in war zones, anywhere young men tried to claim power through violence. The Lobos recognized the Devil's Disciples patches immediately. The group tensed, hands drifting toward pockets where weapons might hide. "Keep walking," Reaper said quietly. "We're not here for them. Not today." Sophie's apartment building was a 5-story walk-up with cracked concrete steps and graffiti covering the walls. The elevator was broken. They climbed to the 3rd floor, Sophie leading the way. She knocked on apartment 3C in a specific pattern: 3 quick, 2 slow, 1 quick, a signal. The door opened a crack, then wider. A teenage boy stood there, tall and thin, with his father's features and his mother's dark eyes. Miguel Martinez looked tired, older than 14. Then he saw the bikers behind his sister. "Sophie, what did you do?" His voice cracked between anger and fear. "I got help," Sophie said defiantly. "Real help." Miguel's eyes darted between the 3 massive men in his hallway. "You brought bikers to our home? Are you insane?" "Can we come in?" Reaper asked calmly. "We're just here to talk." "About what?" "About being a man," Reaper said. "About choices. About what happens in 3 weeks when the Lobos come calling." Miguel's face went pale. "How do you—" "Your sister told us. She climbed an 8-foot fence, walked 2 miles through a dangerous neighborhood, and offered us her life savings to help you." Reaper's voice was steady. "That's courage, Miguel. That's love. The least you can do is hear us out." Miguel stepped back, letting them in. The apartment was small but clean, clearly maintained with pride despite limited resources. Pictures of their father in military uniform hung on the wall. The living room was sparse: a worn couch, a small TV, homework spread across a kitchen table. They sat. Miguel remained standing, defensive. "I don't need help," he said. "Yes, you do," Sophie said. "You're going to join a gang or they're going to hurt you. And Mom's going to lose you just like she lost Dad." "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Brick interrupted. His voice was hard but not unkind. "I was you. 15 years old, no father, angry at the world, and a gang offering me belonging. I joined, spent the next decade in and out of prison. Lost years I can never get back." Miguel looked at him. "Then how'd you get out?" "Someone gave me a choice," Brick said. "Someone showed me there was another way to be strong." Ghost leaned forward. Miguel, those boys on the corner, they're not offering you manhood. They're offering you a uniform and a grave. The Lobos have a life expectancy of about 5 years for new recruits in this city. Is that what you want? I don't want anything, Miguel's voice cracked. I just want to not be weak. I want to protect my sister and my mother. I want to be what my father was. Then be better, Reaper said quietly. Miguel stared at him. Your father was a soldier. He served, protected, sacrificed. The Lobos are the opposite of everything he stood for. Reaper's voice was steady, certain. You want to honor him? Then be a man who protects instead of prays, who builds instead of destroys. How? Miguel's voice was barely a whisper. How do I do that when I don't know how? You let us teach you, Reaper said. Not just fighting, though we'll teach you that too, but discipline, responsibility. What it means to be strong enough to walk away from violence unless there's no other choice. Miguel's defenses were crumbling. Why would you do this? Because 12 men just like us decided we weren't going to let another kid get swallowed by the streets, Ghost said. We started this club to give former military and ex-cons a brotherhood that wasn't criminal, to prove we could be more than what the world expected. And because your sister climbed a fence for you, Brick added, nobody's fighting that hard for you unless you're worth saving. Miguel looked at Sophie, really looked at her. She was 8 years old, wearing shoes held together with duct tape, clutching a jar of coins. And she'd walked through the most dangerous neighborhood in the city because she believed he was worth saving. He started to cry. Reaper stood up and put a hand on Miguel's shoulder. It's okay. It's okay to hurt. Your father's gone. That's real pain. But pain doesn't make you weak. Giving up does. I don't want to give up, Miguel whispered. Then don't. Starting tomorrow, you're going to meet us at the clubhouse every day after school. We're going to teach you mechanics, discipline, self-defense. You're going to earn your place with work, not violence. And in 3 weeks, when the Lobos come calling, you're going to tell them you already have brothers. Miguel wiped his eyes. They won't accept that. They will, Reaper said, because we'll be standing right behind you when you say it. The next day, Miguel showed up at the Devil's Disciples Clubhouse at 4 p.m. sharp. He was nervous, uncertain, but he showed up. Reaper put him to work immediately, cleaning parts, organizing tools, learning basic motorcycle maintenance. No coddling, no special treatment, just work, structure, and purpose. Brick taught him to fight, not street brawling, but disciplined combat. Violence is a tool, Brick explained during their first session. Tools have specific purposes. You don't use a hammer when you need a screwdriver. Most problems don't need violence, but when they do, you need to know how to use it correctly. Ghost taught him discipline. Wake up at 6 a.m., run 3 miles. Do homework before anything else. Take care of your responsibilities before your wants. The other club members taught him their trades: welding, carpentry, auto repair, marketable skills, legal ways to make money. But more than skills, they taught him something else, that strength wasn't about domination. It was about control, especially self-control. 3 weeks passed quickly. Miguel changed. His posture straightened, his eyes focused. He started going back to school regularly, returning to his soccer team, helping his mother more. Sophie watched her brother transform, her 7.43 still sitting on Reaper's desk in the clubhouse, untouched. Then came the day they'd all been preparing for. Miguel's 15th birthday fell on a Saturday. The Lobos had made it clear, join or face consequences. Miguel knew they'd come. They showed up at 2 p.m., 6 of them, including 2 older members. They found Miguel outside his apartment building, working on his mother's car with tools borrowed from the clubhouse. Time to choose, little man, the leader, a 19-year-old called Serpiente, said with a smirk. You're 15 now. You're either with us or you're prey. Miguel stood up slowly, wiping grease from his hands. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. I appreciate the offer, but I already have brothers. Serpiente's smirk widened. Oh yeah? Where are these brothers? Right here. The Devil's Disciples emerged from strategic positions, Reaper from the building entrance, Brick from around the corner, Ghost from across the street. 12 bikers in total, forming a protective semicircle around Miguel. The Lobos' confidence evaporated instantly. Miguel is under our protection now, Reaper said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. He's made his choice. You're going to respect it. Serpiente tried to save face. You can't protect him forever. Don't need forever, Brick said, just until you realize he's not worth the trouble. Because if anything happens to him, to his sister or to his mother, we'll know exactly who to visit. Ghost stepped forward. And let me be clear about something. We're not a gang. We're veterans, men who've actually seen combat. We know the ye-gat-I difference between boys playing tough and real violence. You don't want to find out which category you fall into. The territorial calculation was instant. The Lobos were street-level operators. The Devil's Disciples were organized, experienced, and connected. This wasn't a fight worth having. Serpiente backed down, trying to maintain dignity. Whatever. He ain't worth it anyway. They left. The threat was gone, not forever, but for now. And for now was enough time for Miguel to become too strong, too established, too protected to be easy prey. Miguel's hands were shaking. That was it? They just left? They left because you stood your ground, Reaper said. You didn't run, didn't back down, didn't try to fight them. You just held your line and let your brothers back you up. That's what men do. I was terrified. Courage isn't not being scared, Brick said. It's being scared and standing anyway. Sophie came running out of the building and crashed into Miguel, hugging him fiercely. You did it. You didn't join them. Miguel hugged her back, his eyes wet. You did this. You saved me. No, Sophie said. They saved you. I just knew where to find help. Reaper knelt down beside Sophie. You know what? We're keeping your 743s, but not as payment. Then what? As a reminder, we're going to put it in a frame, hang it right next to the charter, and everyone who asks what it means, we'll tell them about an 8-year-old girl who had more courage than most adults, who climbed a fence, walked through danger, and refused to give up on her brother. Sophie's eyes went wide. Really? Really? The money went up on the wall that evening, 743 in a mason jar, preserved behind glass with a small plaque, The Price of Brotherhood, paid by Sophie Martinez, age 8. It became legend, but the story didn't end there. Miguel thrived. He graduated high school with honors, got a scholarship to trade school, became a certified mechanic. He never joined a gang. He never went to prison. He became exactly what his father would have wanted, a man who protected his family with hard work and integrity. He also became the Devil's Disciples' youngest prospect at 19, earning his patch through work and dedication. Sophie grew up strong and fearless. She became a social worker, specifically helping children in crisis. She never forgot that bikers were the ones who saved her family when no one else would. The East Side Lobos eventually dissolved. Some members went to prison, others died young. A few got out and tried to rebuild their lives. None of them ever bothered the Martinez family again. Rosa Martinez, when she finally learned the full story years later, cried in Reaper's arms and thanked him for saving her son. Reaper told her what he told everyone. Your daughter saved him. We just helped. The 743 in the mason jar still hangs in the Devil's Disciples clubhouse today. New members learned Sophie's story during their initiation. They learn that courage comes in all sizes, that family isn't always blood, that the world might see them as dangerous, but they chose to be guardians. Years later, at Miguel's wedding, the entire Devil's Disciples chapter showed up. Leather vests filled the back rows of the church. When Miguel and his bride walked down the aisle, 12 bikers stood and roared louder than the organ. During his speech at the reception, Miguel thanked his mother, his wife, and his little sister. Then he turned to where the Devil's Disciples sat. I was 14 years old and ready to give up, ready to become another statistic, another kid lost to the streets. Then my baby sister climbed a fence and saved my life. His voice broke. She knew what I couldn't see. That strength comes from choosing to be better, not harder, that real men protect instead of destroy. And these men taught me that. He raised his glass. To the Devil's Disciples, to brotherhood, to second chances. The bikers raised their glasses back. Reaper's eyes were wet. Sophie, now 24 and radiant in her bridesmaid dress, found Reaper during the reception. Thank you, she said simply, for everything. Thank you for reminding us why we wear these patches, Reaper replied, for showing us that sometimes a little girl with 743 can change the world. Keep it on the wall, Sophie said, always. Always, Reaper promised. The jar still hangs there today, coins and bills visible behind the glass. A memorial to courage, a testament to brotherhood, a reminder that sometimes the people society fears are the ones who save you. That sometimes $7.43 is worth more than 7,000. That sometimes the hardest men carry the softest hearts. That's the truth the world won't admit. But Sophie Martinez lived it. Miguel Martinez proved it, and that framed jar of money testifies to it every single day. The devil's disciples learned something from an 8-year-old girl that changed them forever. True strength isn't about who you can hurt, it's about who you choose to protect. And that lesson, bought for $7.43, was priceless.